If there aren't legal consequences, people are going to get the message that vigilante violence is acceptable against any Americans as long as you claim you're pro-Israel. And that is a super dangerous message. They must not allow that to happen in New York.
New York police are now investigating the grotesque harassment a Brooklyn woman faced at the hands of a group of pro-Israeli Orthodox Jewish men who were counter-protesting those demonstrating against Itamar Ben-Gvir's Brooklyn appearance. But here's the kicker. She wasn't even protesting. She was just an innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. Cenk, just based on this footage alone, what's your initial thoughts here?
Well, I'm sure that they're getting an anti something or other task force ready to combat this, because that's worse than anything we saw on a college campus, where they surround a person, they throw things at her, and as Jordan's going to tell you the details in a second, threatening to rape her, etc. So will there be congressional hearings? Will any of the people there be investigated to find out if they're citizens or not? Are they on a visa? Are they resident aliens? Should we arrest and deport them? Oh no, none of that will happen. None of that will happen. In fact, as this story unwinds, you're going to see that some of the cops saw all of this happening and went, yeah, but they have privilege and you don't. So you're gonna have to sit there and take it. And after we go through this story, I'm gonna tell you an amazing story where I had something similar happen to me in a very different context. So I know exactly what that woman went through and the terror that happens when you face a mob like that. We'll get to all that, but Jordan, tell us more about this.
Yeah, let's get back into some of these details. The incident last Thursday occurred after pro-Palestinian activists had reportedly gathered to demonstrate against the visit of Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir at the Chabad-Lubavitch World Headquarters in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, where they were met with Orthodox Jewish counter-protesters, according to the Associated Press. In one video posted online, a woman with a blue and white scarf covering part of her face is seen walking away from a crowd of what appears to be mostly Orthodox Jewish men as they repeatedly chant in her direction, call her racial slurs, and hurl at least one object towards her. Let's watch another video taken from the woman's perspective.
There's some weird Palestinian. Is that you? You want someone to bend you over and rape you like they're doing to the Jews in Palestine? I'm trying to think of
And that is before things got bad, apparently. Now, the woman has not been named, but she told CNN that she wasn't even a protester. She just lived in the neighborhood and went out to see what was happening after hearing helicopters. There were no protesters left by the time I got there, but there were just like tons, like hundreds of Orthodox Jewish people in the street and on the sidewalk, she said. Then some people near me began filming, and I pulled a scarf over my face because I didn't want to be filmed by anybody, she said, adding that putting the scarf on appeared to escalate things as a woman nearby began screaming. And as soon as she started screaming at me, this group of 100 men came almost immediately and encircled me. They were threatening me, threatening to rape me. They were just shouting really disgusting, vile insults. And while eventually a single police officer escorted her out of the situation to safety, they didn't do anything at first. The police did not do anything to intervene. They literally just stared straight ahead as this was happening, just willfully ignoring the crime that was happening. I felt sheer terror. I realized at that point that I couldn't lead this mob of men to my home. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do. I was just terrified. I'm afraid to move around the neighborhood where I've lived for a decade. It doesn't seem like anyone in any position of power really cares. While initially reluctant to file a police report, the woman has since released a statement demanding an immediate hate crimes investigation and action from the city and state officials, according to CNN. And at the same time, Mayor Eric Adams announced that police are investigating multiple incidents stemming from the protests that night. A police spokesperson told AP News that so far 1 person has been arrested and 5 others have been issued summons. But it's unclear if those individuals were involved with this specific incident we're talking about. Eric Adams said police had spoken to a different woman on the pro-Palestinian side of the protest who suffered injuries after she was harassed by counter-protesters. Photos shared online showed that woman with blood streaming down her face. Let me be clear, none of this is acceptable. In fact, it is despicable. New York City will always be a place where people can peacefully protest, but we will not tolerate violence, trespassing, menacing, or threatening. Now, Cenk, you mentioned college campus protests earlier and the response to that. Is this a place where people can protest peacefully? And what do you make of this situation here?
Yeah, so first off, I'm gonna say the same thing that I say when it is Muslim fundamentalists that do anything wrong, or right-wing fundamentalists do anything wrong. Do not judge all Orthodox Jews by the actions of these few folks. And the synagogue involved there actually condemn what happened. So that's good. We appreciate that, and that's cooler heads prevailing. Now, should there be consequences, especially for the person who threw the object at her, and then people who threatened to rape her, et cetera? Of course they should. Will there be legal consequences for that? So why do I say maybe, maybe not? Because this is so egregious. Even Eric Adams, who will do anything for donors, is saying, "Oh, it's despicable and it shouldn't happen." Look, to be fair, I have no idea if or any member of that community donated to Eric Adams or anyone else, right? But like he's not a guy that normally is animated about this. He's usually animated about if you ever criticize Israel. So I'm just taking his track record on this, okay? So this is so egregious, you would think that there would be action taken on it. But look at what the cops' reaction was. You see that mob, and she's reporting, that woman is reporting that, yeah, before that one lady cop came, she's looking at the cops like, "Are you gonna help me?" And the cops are looking away. What is this? What is this? What got into those cops' heads that they thought, well, if this group is attacking that single woman, I shouldn't do anything to help her? I don't know, but they should be asked that question by their supervisors. So, because that was unacceptable what happened there. And it would always be unacceptable no matter what different race, religion, political group that those different groups are representing. No matter who's on which side. Please, can we have fair and equal laws that apply to everyone? It's not too much to ask for. And so this idea that, oh my God, the peace protesters are the violent ones, or the ones that harass other people. In Colombia, somebody ran over protesters. Well, that's pretty bad. Yeah, it was pro-Israeli guy who did that. There's another pro-Israeli guy who ran over somebody or shot at someone in Miami because they thought he was a Palestinian. It turns out they were Israeli or they were Jewish. I forget if it was Israeli or Jewish that they shot at. And so I think it was an Israeli family. So and then at UCLA, massive violence. And which side was it? The pro-Israeli side. So now you have seen with your own eyes, we've shown you the video, and in other cases we reported several different times where you see the pro-Israeli side do significant violence, harassment, etc. And yet no congressional hearings, no universities being shut down, no one being kidnapped off the streets. And by the way, would I want it to be done in reverse? That if you criticize Palestine or you applaud Israel, that you should be kidnapped by masked men representing the American government and arrested and deported and put into prisons in Louisiana, et cetera? Of course not, of course not. We need to have freedom of speech in this country. We need to be able to believe anything we want and not be harassed by either the government or mobs of angry individuals. So I hope that they take action. Do I have strong belief that they will? No, I don't have a strong belief that they will. And so, look, I'll tell you the story, Jordan, that happened to me. And you don't need this story to be outraged by it, right? But I just happen to have a personal situation that was very similar to this. So I had enormous sympathy and empathy for her. So when I was down in Miami, Elian Gonzalez was there at the time, if you remember, around 2000, right? He's a little boy from Cuba, and his dad was in Cuba and wanted him back. His mom had died coming over here. And all of Little Havana was folks who had come over from Cuba originally, and they were all around his house. And I thought that there was a counter protest to send Elian home. And even though back then I was a Republican, I thought, well, it doesn't make sense. His dad wants him back home. We got to send him back home. You can't just keep him from his dad. So I go down there thinking that there was a counter protest. There was no counter protest. I was the only one, okay? And what happened was an angry mob just like that of about at least 100 people attacked me at once. And there's nothing quite as terrifying as that, right? For some of you who are members and you've heard me tell the story in bonus episodes, etc. before, you know there's a part of the story that's funny that didn't happen here, right? But actually, if you're a woman or anyone really, you might not have found it funny if you were in my situation. So they attacked me, they ripped my sign, they start ripping my shirt, and just like her, one cop showed up and started escorting me to a car. And another cop then came in and said, hey, he didn't do anything wrong. We shouldn't put him in the police car. It'll look like he's getting arrested. And me and the cop were like, let's go. Because at that point, people are punching me in the back of the head, kicking me, punching me. And then the comical part was some guy kept pinching me in the butt from behind. It was so crazy. It was a madhouse, right? But before that crazy part, which was to me slightly amusing, probably wouldn't be to anyone else, I was afraid for my life, right? And so when I think about her, a woman in that situation, and all of a sudden you got this angry mob coming up on her and attacking her and threatening to rape her. Oh my God, the terror she must have had. And what are we fighting? We're fighting against terrorism, right? And that was nothing but terror there. Jordan, imagine not only being in that situation yourself, but imagine it's someone you love and care for, you know, a woman in your life in a situation like that, and you saw the video later. How enraged would you be?
Oh, I would lose my mind, and I would be furious with the police who stood idly by, as this woman talked about. Like, we know, unfortunately, that the NYPD is fully capable of responding if there are crowds or protests or demonstrators, whatever, on an issue that they don't approve of, that is powerless. I mean, here we're seeing a politically powerful movement and ideology. Just at the onset of this incident, the police turned a blind eye to it. But I think back to 2020 and the George Floyd uprising, how violent NYPD was. And I'm not saying the solution should have been violence, but if they want to, they will break up groups of people. So like, we know they can do that. But when it comes to a group of people who have political power, who are not representing the marginalized here, it seems like time and time again, they turn a blind eye to it. That's the role of police in modern society. It is protecting powerful interests. That's it. They're not out there to protect and serve you, the individual. And you see that here. Eventually, luckily, he finally intervened and got her there safely. But she never should have had to endure any of that. It's unfortunate that you were in that circumstance in the early 2000s. It's unfortunate that she was in that circumstance. And sadly, there are many instances where police will just turn a blind eye to other similar circumstances, and that should not be the case.
Yeah, last two things here. You know, the guy threw a cone at her, and the first shot guy that Kyle Rittenhouse shot had thrown a plastic bag with an empty plastic bottle in it at him, and he turned around, shot him, and killed him. Right? So apparently, and he was acquitted. So apparently that was enough. My point here is, look, I don't want her doing that. I don't want anybody doing that, and that's why I was super mad at Rittenhouse for. In his case, he went and provoked things, and he had a weapon and brandished it, etc. In my opinion, and she was just walking by. She was just walking by. But they did things that were severe enough that a jury in this country said, if that was done to you, you're allowed to kill that other person. And I thank God none of that happened here. But my point is, this is getting out of hand. This is crazy. And the reason it's getting out of hand is there's no balance at all. We're not treating people fairly or equally at all. One side gets all of the advantages and privileges, the other side gets nothing, and she's not even on a side, right? So if they don't at this point take action, look, we asked the poll in the live chat, do you think they're gonna take significant action? I'd probably vote for C, which is some mild punishment is probably the only thing that'll happen. You guys are voting for no, nothing will happen. But the very fact that that's our expectation is damning, that our government is not fair and equal, that there's one country that they value above all others. And if you're protesting that country, you're in a world of trouble, right? But if you're crazed on the side of that country and you attack someone, will there be, at UCLA, it took them so long to arrest only one guy out of so many people that attacked and did assaults. We asked and asked and asked to get one or just one arrest for obvious assault with their faces wide open. Well, I don't know. But when you send a sign that violence is okay from one side, that is a super dangerous sign to send. So, and you're seeing the consequence of that. And finally, the original protesters, not her, were protesting Itamar Ben-Gvir. He is a literal terrorist. He was adjudicated not even by international criminal courts, by Israeli courts as aiding and abetting terrorism. Now he's their security minister, and he's terrorizing the West Bank, Gaza Strip. He's one of the most awful government leaders in the whole world. He's one of the worst terrorists in the world, constantly talking about how they have to ethnically cleanse Gaza, wipe out all the Palestinians from Gaza, and take Gaza. And that's the guy that these people were celebrating. They were in ecstatic joy over what the damage of the violence that he has done to Palestinian families. So is it surprising that the people who were celebrating that monster would then attack an innocent woman like this on the streets of America? No, not acceptable. If there aren't legal consequences, people are gonna get the message that vigilante violence is acceptable against any Americans as long as you claim you're pro-Israel. And that is a super dangerous message. They must not allow that to happen in New York. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.